We're gonna go back for a moment. We'll start 3 lines from the top. Man Tana Laha Titanu Rabban. Let's just go back a little bit of a running start. This really wraps up the previous sugya. A quick chazara. La'achlam says the pasuk v'loy l'malugla, not for medicine. La'achlam v'lo that's a sprinkle. La'achlam v'lo asid menapik. Taisit to throw up. Kiman. Who is this opinion that holds it la'achla, not these three? Rabbi Yosi. Why? T'irabban he can have mishra kvusa. So Rabbanan also hold the achla, not for mishra, not for kvusa. That was the end of the previous thing. So Amar Rav Elazar comes in. Rav Elazar teaches Rav Elazar doing quick chazara from last night. Amar Rav Elazar ein shvius. Teaches Rav Elazar mischaleles ela derech mekach. Rav Elazar holds that Shemitah is only mitchalel via a sale, and of course the contrast gives us the clarity. Rav Yechon Amar bein derech mekach, bein derech chil. That's the machlokes. How do you transfer the sanctity of Shemitah? Is it only via a sale, or is it as well via chilul? What does chilul mean? You transfer the kedusha from A to B. Says the Gemara, my time with Rav Elazar. Where does Rav Elazar come from when he tells us that it's only derech mekach? Techsiv, says the pasuk. B'shnasa yovel azois, yovel Shemitah. The samachlei, and nearby it says chisim karu mimkar. Derech mekach, below derech chil. So what do we see? Only by way of mekach. Rav Yechanan, my time. Where does Rav Yechanan hold? Know that it's both a mekach and chilul. Tachsev ki yovel he kodesh. He uses the word kodesh. Ma kodesh, just like all kodshim, just like all holy items. You could transfer their kedusha bein derech mekach, bein derech chilul. Av shvius, so too shmita bein derech mekach, bein derech chilul. Erev Tov, Rav Sroli. Rav Yochanan. That's what we ended last time. Machlokes, Rav Yochanan. How we learn out, how can you transfer the sanctity of Shemitah? So now, we have the classical kasha. How does each shita hold of the other? Says the Gemara of Rav Yochanan. I don't think that one works. We should start either throwing them out or putting them out of the box.
Bunch of them are...
Here we go. Yeah. Rav Yochanan, it could be just. Oh, has
I usually find it regular simple.
Yeah, good old fashioned. Good old fashioned. Rav Yochanan, hi kisimku mimkar me'avidli. So ask the Gemara, what does Rav Yochanan learns out of the fact that it's called kodship? Frag the Gemara, what does Rav Yochanan do with the makar of Rav Elazar? The fact that the Torah puts mekach memkar next to yovel. For Rav Yochanan, hi kisimkar mimkar me'avidli. Answers the Gemara, mibayilei lechter Rav Yosi bar Chanina. Titania, we learned in our brayso. Rav Yosi bar Chanina, Bore, come and see. Kama kosher. How hard, literally, how difficult is avka shel shvius, even the dust of Shemitah. How stringent, how difficult, how hard is the Isser of Shemitah. Why? Adam noisei v'noisein b'peirei shvius. If a person, an Adam, he's noisei v'noisein, means he does business, he gives and takes. B'peirei Shemitah, the fruit of shvius, which of course is forbidden. So if a person transgresses and he goes and he buys and sells with Shemitah, what's going to happen? L'soif at the end, moicher es metaltulav es kilov. He's going to be forced to sell everything he has. He's going to have absolutely nothing. He's going to have to sell even his movable objects. Where do we know that from? Shenemar, says the pasuk, Bishnas hayovel azois tashuvu shal chuzasai. That's the first pasuk. V'samech lei chisimcharu mimkar lamisecha. So Rav Elazar used the two psukim being nearby each other to teach us that the way to transfer the sanctity is via what? Mekach umemkar, via a sale. Rav Yochanan says, no, that's not what the Torah is teaching us. The Torah is teaching us a good musar shmuz, that you think you're going to play with God. You're going to start going and you're going to go and sell and buy Perei Shemitah. You know what's going to happen? Rachmana litzlan. You're going to come to a place that you got to sell everything. As the Torah says, Mekach umemkar, next to The halachas of Shemitah. Ask the Gemara.
That's
Not a given. Like,
interesting.
you don't do, carbon based off these leftover for money.
So what do we see? We see that clearly. I want to. What's your question? I want to answer the question. One second. Nachman, what are you saying?
Rabbi Yossi seems to be the more mafia in the situation. Rabbi Yochanan seems to be the more make. Why is it now seeming like Rabbi Yochanan is being much more so careful in this?
So it's two different things. So one is in the halacha of Perush Shemitah, and there you're correct in how they each learn it up. And number two is Rabbi Yochanan says the fact that the Torah uses buying and selling next to Shemitah shows us that you're going to end up buying and selling everything. But to answer your question, it's actually a little bit of it's a little bit of the God is evil mentality that unfortunately many of us grew up with. I do something wrong, God's going to kill me. And that's and then unfortunately the problem with that is that what happens is someone does something wrong, and guess what? A lightning bolt didn't come out from Shemayim, and he's okay. So he says,
that's what they call it.
Right? He says, hey, I didn't put on tefillin today, and I'm okay. I didn't keep Shabbos, and I'm fine. You know what? Clearly, that evil God that I grew up with that was with his stick about to kill me, clearly it's not true. And he happens to be right. It clearly isn't true. That's not the reason to do Torah mitzvah. It's not because of the evil God. So what we see over here is something very unique, and actually it's a massive chiddush that Hashem says, you're right. Ravi, really you're saying is, it's Eretz Yisrael. You're playing with God's land. It's almost like Hashem is a chutzpah. You think you're going to take my produce on Shemitah when I told you not to do it, and you're going to gain from it? It's true, but there's a special slap you get. I guess that's the way to say it. It's not stam a slap, but you should know there are different times we find this. We find, there's it says about doing business in Erev Shabbos. It says about doing business on Chol Hamoed. Erev Shabbos after Chatzos is special, and this is brought down la'alacha. This is not like in Yonim. It's brought down like lahalacha and Shulchan Aruch, times you're not supposed to be doing heavy levels of business and things like that. And a lot of them come with a line like you're not going to see a siman bracha, like whoa, it's a little bit scary. But yeah, that's the mitzvahs. But here there's a special, dispensation. Thank you. Words aren't working. Or if you don't keep peiros shemitah, you don't keep peiros shemitah.
The opposite is that Hashem gives you.
Bracha ad bli dai. It says you don't. If you keep shemitah, Hashem says I'll give you on year 6 for 6, 7, and 8. Of course, we don't have to go into all the shemitah Torah, but the kasha is so glaring. What that means is that in year 6, anyone who's keeping shemitah, pasha, they have so much. So why the next time doesn't everyone keep shemitah? It's bizarre. Out of Yom we have this. Every time it's Shemitah, stories come out one after another. Locust came, destroyed all the crops, but not the guys keeping Shemitah. So I don't understand. So why the next time doesn't everyone keep Shemitah? Yeah.
What I'm saying is it similar to what Rob was saying yesterday about the store who sells and that, and they get the change of the 5 shekel.
We're about to get there. Mamish. Yes, it is similar to that. In the opposite is that if you don't keep Eir Shemitah, Hashem says, I'm going to mamish take everything from you. But what you're saying, let's go Shavait. Rav Elazar, so what does Rav Elazar do? What does Rav Elazar do with the pasuk of Rav Yechanan? I'm gonna tell you personally, when I find these gemaras, you always have to go back and forth. I'll tell you personally, what I do is I keep on looking back over here. Which sheet does which. This is my personal thing. Is just to know who's who. Who's who. The Rav Elazar is only Mekach, and Rav Yechanan is Chil. Rav Elazar is Samechle, and Rav Yechanan is Kiyavali Kodesh. Yes, thank you. So what do we do with the pasuk of Kiyavali Kodesh? We need for the following brisa. Kiyavali Kodesh. Ma Kodesh, Rav Nachman, this is what you were just saying. Just like Kachit, Toifes as Damav grabs hold of its value, of its money. Av Shmiyas, Toifes as Toimeha. Toifes literally means grab its value. What does that mean? That means the sanctity stays on the cash. Sanctity stays in the cash. Look at Rashi. Rashi didn't explain this beautifully. Says Rashi, Kodesh Toifes es Damav. Rashi's about 10 lines on the wide lines. Pediya Ksivbe, it says redemption. Shezeh Yoitze, this goes out. V'zeh nichnas tachtov, and this enters in its place. Yoitze Hakdish, l'chulin. Hakdish becomes non-holy. v'nechnasim adomim tachtov, and the money becomes holy. Meaning, if I go to the Beis Hamikdash and the Beis Hamikdash has whatever it has, and I buy it, so the item I buy is not holy, but the money is holy. Says the Gemara, the same thing happens with Shemitah. Okay, so now we know what each Shita does with the other pasuk.
There are other different levels of kedushas. Let's say shvius.
What are you asking? What are you asking?
If I buy it, if I sell an apple, and I go buy a lulav.
Let's go. The Gemara is about first cousin address your question. Tanya Kavasid Rav Elazar, Tanya Kavasid Rav Yochanan. Says the Gemara, let's bring a raya to each shita. Tanya Kavasid Rav Elazar, again Rav Elazar says, only derech mekach. Tanya Kavasid Rav Elazar, Shvi is tefeses es domeho. Shenemar, ki yoiveli kodesh tiyelochem. Ma kodesh tefeses domov. Ve'aser, av shemitah v'sistem avasura. Period.
We're just repeating.
Yeah, that's a raya. A raya is you find the brisa, almost like you do a quick computer search. Oh, I found the source. So the Tanaim, that's what they did. A Talmud popped up from the back and said, "Oh, I remember a brisa, which is a raya to the Rebbe of Yochanan." And there he went and said over the brisa verbatim, and it's a beautiful raya. And the brisa continues, "Ima kodesh toifes damav." Something which is holy grabs hold of its value. Ve'yoytzil chulin. This is what Rashi was teaching us, and it itself becomes chulin. It itself is not holy. Av shviyis tefeses tameo ve'yoytzes lechulin. So too, the thing should be by Shemitah. Now, this is an extra chiddush about to see. Talmud loymar tihiyeh. Shemitah has an extra din that even after you pay money for it, tihiyeh. What does that mean? B'havyasoi tehei. It remains in its sanctity. What does that mean?
The fruit of the money.
Both. That's the chiddush of Shemitah. Normally, I go, this item has kedusha. I give you $5 for the Diet Coke. Diet Coke does not have kedusha. The cash does have kedusha. Shavias is different. Shavias both have kedusha. I'm not sure what you were saying. They both have kedusha. Haketzad. How is this? Lokach peiroi shavias basar. Let's say I barter. I have a bushel of apples. You have a gishmak of steak. I say, listen, I got apples. You got steak. I'm going to give you apples. You give me steak. You know what the halacha is? Elu va'elu, the apples which started out as Shemitah, and now your meat as well, mitba'arin b'shvias, has to be consumed with kedusha shvias. Comment. Massive chiddush.
That's the way around. You have Shemitah fruit. This guy is going to be traded.
No, but it's even more. I have Shemitah fruit, and your meat is not Shemitah. It's regular cow. When I pay you, and that's why Rabbi Nachman, the example I gave it to Makolit is the Chiddush. When I buy something, normally when you buy something, the Kedusha transfers. By Shemitah, it doesn't transfer. It stays on both. But now the question is, no, by Hektish it transfers. Beis Hamikdash it transfers. Karbonos it transfers.
Non-parrot transfer.
Of course, everything
We have
transfers.
this ownership group on this.
Yeah, normally you have a carbon and you have extra carbon. I want to buy carbon. No problem. We can transfer kedusha. Shemitah the chiddush it says. But now you know what the question is.
Which was Rabbi Elazar's shot.
Correct.
It doesn't.
That's the raya. Now the question is, how far does it go? How far does it go? I gave you apples. I bought your beef. So now the meat has kedusha and the apples have kedusha. Let's say I realize, too much meat. I trade the meat for your oranges. All three have kedusha. What is it? This is never ending. So it says, no, not that far. Lokach b'basar dogim. If with the basar you bought dogim, then yatsa basar. The basar literally goes out, meaning it does not have kedusha. V'nechnasu dagim, and the fish, yes, has kedusha. Lokach v'dagim yayin. If you buy with fish wine, yatsu dagim, the wine goes out. V'nechtasu yayin, and now the wine has
That does
kedusha.
make it sound like it's transfer.
Lokach v'yayin shemen. You buy oil, yatsa yayin, the wine goes out. V'nechnas shemen. So says the Gemara, Haki said, what's going on over here? We started off saying they both have kedusha. Now we're saying it does transfer. Says the Gemara, Acharoin nichnas b'shviyes. The last item always gets kedusha, and upri atzmoi aser. The original item never loses its sanctity. First. So that bushel of apples will never lose its kedusha. And then as things get transferred, the last.
That does sound like
After the item that started with
it
Shemitah.
does sound like there's a transfer.
So it's what we would call a middle level. On one hand, it transfers. On one hand, it stays a chiddush of
Stays
Shemitah.
only for the first one.
Correct.
But
The
it's
first one stays, the last one transfers. End of Brisa. So says,
Maybe was talking about the middle ones and not the first.
so what's the raya? Go look at the Gemara articulates the raya. Because you're right. What is it? Says, well, midikatoni lokach. What was the terminology used by the Brisa? Lokach. You bought it. Lok midikatoni lokach alma derech mekach in. Yes. We see that how does it transfer? Only via a purchase. However, derech chilol loy, that's the raya. Moiridik raya. A raya that works via mekach umekach. Now, we parenthetically, we sidebar also brought out a chiddush that when Shvius Kedusha transfers, it's a unique din. The original item maintains the Kedusha, and the last item gets the Kedusha. And that's the reason why my example of the money in the makolet, things get really messed up. Because when he buys Peiros Shvius, usually you don't have to worry about the next step. There, the money does get, and then you never know where it ends up. Let's pause over here. It's a little bit of a longer bar.
It's not a problem.
Correct. And we'll pick it up from Rav Yechon B'Siyata Dishmaya.